It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
Welcome to another edition of A Cup of Coffee right here from Slumberland at the lake. I'm Wild Will.
And I'm Uncle Chris, and it's another great cup of coffee for you this week.
Yeah, some crazy local headlines, including fatal shooting, includes Lori PD. We'll tell you about that.
Yeah, that's going to be, that's a tough story there.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of that, and you hope you don't continue to see more of that, but inevitably it does happen. We'll tell you about that. Plus, COMC's hometown hero, as well as Central Ozarks Medical Center, rolls out a pretty cool savings opportunity. We'll tell you about that. Plus, Eagle Days this last weekend. You and Michelle get out for that?
We did not, but you know what? I just flew around like a bird all weekend and making bird sounds, right?
I like it. We have a cool story as some drones actually installed reflectors on the power lines around Bagnell Dam to protect not just bald eagles, but other birds in the area. So that's pretty cool. Also look back at Eagle Days to tell you how that stacked up compared to previous years, as well as so many local developments around the lake area. And we've got some status updates as good as we could anyway to give you guys an update on where those are. That and a whole lot more after this from Daryl with Slumberland at the Lake.
Hey everyone, Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. We still have our inventory reduction sale going on, and it's going to go on all month. Lots of great deals to be had for every room of the house. Come see us at Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
All right, so as we get started on this week's show, a unfortunate headline as there was a fatal shooting last weekend into the weekend. Fatal shooting includes Lori, police officer. Kind of a sad deal. And I first started seeing stuff on Lake Area Happenings. Pretty bizarre headline here for the Lake Area.
Yeah, very interesting. Saw a lot of it online, didn't know what was going on. And I live in that area. I think you live in that area too. So I heard police cars all night, knew something was going on. So name of the guy who was killed in an officer-involved shooting on Thursday, January 5th. Lori Police Department says 44-year-old Brian G. Mummert of Sunrise Beach. And the press release, City of Lori's police chief says, January 5th, right around 7:30, officers with the Lori Police Department dispatched to a physical domestic at the O Road Park Place mobile home. They're off of Carefree Lane in Lori, arrived on the scene, noticed the assault victim was out in the street, standing in the roadway. The suspect was standing on the porch of the residence. And here's where it all started going south, really bad with the police. As officers approached the porch, they observed what appeared to be a firearm in the man's waistband. And as the officers attempted to get the suspect to, comply with their commands, apparently he began to go for the gun, and the officers fired. The guy was struck, and he died there on the scene, apparently. So.
And what it goes on to say the officer did begin life-saving measures and requested Fire and Emergency Management Service to respond to the scene. Now, once they arrived, fire and EMS took over medical care of the suspect, but he was pronounced deceased on scene a short time later, and as you said, identified as Brian G. Mummert, age 44, for Sunrise Beach. At the request of the Lori Police Department, this investigation will be handled by the Missouri State Highway Patrol Division of Drug and Crime Control. Unfortunate story. Anytime you have a domestic involved, police officer on the scene seems to have followed protocol. Of course, the investigation will reveal more. Sad situation anytime something like this happens, especially when it leads to death.
Yeah, and they say authorities did not release the name of the officer involved for obvious reasons. That's very good. It's interesting. Over the years, we both really had the opportunity to talk to a lot of law enforcement people. What's the most dangerous situation that you have to deal with? And almost every time they say it's a domestic call. Yeah. The domestic situations are the most dangerous usually that officers have to be involved in, and here it just went south again.
Yeah, and of course it would be unfair to make any assumptions, but a lot of times with a domestic, either alcohol or substance involved, and at that point, once you're at that point or that place in mind, things like this could happen, and so it's unfortunate. We'll continue to keep you posted if anything changes as the investigation continues.
I found it interesting that they went with the state police of drug enforcement, so maybe it was a drug-involved situation or something like that.
Yeah, that's what would lead you to believe that something like that could be involved. Of course, don't want to make any assumptions, but that could mean that that's the case. So as we move on, Central Ozarks Medical Center announces a savings program for outstanding accounts. So, hey, maybe that's you. And here's the official update. Central Ozarks Medical Center would like to offer a 50% discount off your claims for account services that are dated older than 120 days. So 4 months old, if you've got outstanding bill with Central Ozarks Medical Center, you could take advantage of this savings, and to receive this discount, call the COMC billing department. We'll put that number on your screen right there, 573-708-7600. You can choose the option based on your last name when calling. COMC hopes you're going to take advantage of this special promotion. Now, the discount is available now through April 28th of this year, so you still have a few months. And I'll tell you what, Chris, over the years, I've had different trips to the emergency room, different doctor's visits where I was left with a out-of-pocket bill, and you can either make payments, you can try to settle, but if I had an outstanding debt with a medical provider, and they offered 50% off now for the next couple of months to settle, I would be doing everything in my power to find out how can I come up with those 50% funds, because I want to eliminate that.
Yeah, that's a big, obviously 50%, huge savings. So yeah, it sounds like a pretty good situation. So get in touch with COMC. Hopefully, that will ease everybody's stress there.
Yeah, COMC continues to do everything in their power to try to make affordable, quality healthcare for you and your family a realistic possibility. And this is another step they take to help our community. So we appreciate them. Next local story, Chris, pretty cool one. So over the weekend was the annual Eagle Days presented by Ameren, Missouri. Now, they've moved to a one-day event over the last couple of years, opposed to the two-day event. I talked with Michelle CoC, who's on the committee for Eagle Days. This year, 12 to 1,300 attendees, which is pretty consistent numbers. However, being a one-day event, it's record attendance because this took place in one day instead of 2 days. Michelle went on to say that she's really thankful to the committee, to Ameren, all the sponsors, and all the volunteers who made this possible. She said it was great weather, well attended, and they look forward to building on this as they move forward. Now, the coloring photo contest that a lot of people participated in, they're still looking at. They're going to name the winner later this month, and we'll announce that here on the show. But the story that I thought was cool with Eagle Days just happening was drones installed reflectors at Bagnell Dam to protect eagles and wildlife, and Lake Expo had put some video, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, right? You've got birds flying around, bald eagles and all the rest flying around, and you've got a lot of those power lines and stuff, and sometimes the birds fly in. So Ameren, Missouri comes in, they're thinking about the bird population, and so they began to utilize a specially designed drone, right? And being in TV, we use drones. They're really cool. They're your sky shots and stuff like that. So these drones have been designed. More than 300 highly reflective markers have been put on those power lines, so that the birds can see these, even apparently in the dark.
Right.
They can see these reflectors and stay away from the power lines, not flying into them, not getting hurt. And man, that is really kind of a cool deal there.
Yeah, they call them diverters, and when they were installing the new transmissions lines, they were installing what they called state-of-the-art flight diverters, and like you said, to prevent the collisions between the birds and the high voltage lines. Pretty crazy, over 300 of those. And so, like you said, at day, at night, as birds get close to those power lines, that should divert them or prevent them from making contact. Have you seen videos of birds landing on power lines and getting zapped?
I have not. No, I love birds. I mean, I think they're the coolest thing. Eagles, owls, all that stuff, but so I try to stay away from seeing those things. That would break my heart. But what happens?
Wait, Chris, an animal that Chris has a soft spot for?
Something about birds. I really love birds.
I'll tell you what's funny about that is 2 winters ago, when we got a snowfall in our new house in Sunrise Beach, Unique went crazy, and we got a bunch of bird feeders, and we actually fell in love with birds as well. It's pretty crazy watching them and the different species of birds come in and what time of year you see them. And last year was the first time in a long time the Baltimore Orioles made their way through the Midwest, and they were everywhere.
Wow.
So
those are beautiful too. Them and cardinals.
Yeah.
And of course eagles and hawks and owls are so cool.
Yeah. So as Ameren went on to say, just as anglers enjoy the stretch of the Osage River below the dam, so do birds. This coming from Kurt Rackers, who's the supervising engineer at Ameren. And he went on to say these diverters provide protection in all conditions to actually reduce the possibility of contact between birds and the power lines. They do not restrict birds from hunting or any other activity. So pretty cool. You can check out more on AmerenMissouri.com. But something you don't really think about when you're in the industry that Ameren is in, and you have power plants and you have energy producing things like dams, that's something you have to worry about is wildlife preservation. And Ameren, Missouri has done a great job of working with the Missouri Department of Conservation to figure out what they need to do. And when they do have a need like that, they do a great job of acting, and this story proves that a step further. All right, so over the last year, we have seen some crazy headlines on new developments and projects that want to come to the lake. And a couple of those, you've got the Outlet Mall, the amusement park, the casino project, the Lynn Creek development, and of course the affordable housing complex off of Nichols. And so I wanted to get a little bit of an update on some of those. And
Boy, you were really busy getting what's going on with all of these things this week. You took a lot of time to figure all that out.
Well, I figured we'd do these stories, and then, we just wait for KRMS News, Lake Expo, or somebody else to give us an update. And I'm like, I wonder if we can't find some of these answers. And so I talked last night with Mayor of Osage Beach, Michael Harmison, and I had first seen, we're talking about the amusement park project, of course, Point Oasis. This is going to be massive, right?
Right, the one that's right beside the Grand Glazed Bridge, right?
And so you'd seen the initial press release and announcement, and then kind of went away, right? People are starting to ask me all the time, hey, so are we really getting an amusement park?
Right, what's going on with that?
Well, according to Gina Woods, Osage Beach City Administrator, she told KRMS that the project is moving forward. She says, we do have their application and development plan. We're in the final stages of them making modifications for us to do a review. So I do expect to see more movement at the first of the year. Right now the ball is in the developer's court. So she said that end of December. And so I reached out to Mayor Michael Harmison, and he said, yes, the city is offering full support for the developers. One thing that I think we need to make clear, I found out, is yes, with this development, they are going to be asking for a TIF. And not just a TIF. Now, hold your horses. Don't freak out when I say this. They're going to be asking for a super TIF.
Okay.
And so when you say super TIF, I already get it. There's some misunderstanding and some preconceived notions about TIFs. And you hear super TIF, I understood when I heard that term, you guys were going to freak out. And so I said, Michael Harmison, Mayor Harmison, you have to make this clear. What exactly is a super TIF? It's actually a good thing for our locals, Chris. So here's what's going to happen. If the city of Osage Beach accepts the TIF proposal, what they would do is then allow the developers to go to the state level to get state tax money. That money would be taken off the local TIF, taken out of the Camden County, Miller, Morgan County area. I know that sounds confusing, but could actually be less of the locals covering the cost of the tax dollars
going to
going
be a benefit to the locals
project.
If the state is chipping in more money.
And it is almost impossible to get a super TIF, but Mayor Michael Harmison has spent time with our Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, and Lieutenant Governor Kehoe is a big proponent of this. So the state is in support of this. So it looks like the super TIF would be the route to go. There's a lot of steps that still need to happen. And so first thing, our local TIF commission. What is our local TIF commission? Made up of 11 members, the president, Tyler Becker. The mayor appoints 5, and then members from each tax districts. The 3 tax districts are the library, the police department, or the fire department, and the school. So you have the library, the school, and the fire department have one chair, one seat on that commission board. And so the commission is now waiting for the developers to present to them their plan or their proposal. And so at that point in time, they would then present 25 copies of their proposal to the city. That would go to the aldermen, to the TIF commission, for them to review them. I know this sounds confusing, and I gotta give kudos to our mayor because they're actually gonna open up a public meeting, and they're going to educate the 2 new members of our TIF commission on what a TIF is, as well as have a community TIF 101 educational event. So you wondering what exactly is a TIF and the tax increment financing, what's a super TIF, what does this mean for us? Actually going to have that first. Once the TIF commission has their meeting, following that, they'll vote on the initial proposal. If they get majority, then the redevelopment agreement process starts. You remember some of this from the outlet mall, which we'll talk about next.
Right.
At that point in time, if the redevelopment agreement process is started, the city's going to hire the independent financial advisor. Luckily for the city, they've got the same one on retainer. That leads me to our outlet mall program.
Of course, this has been a big story. The Foster family came in with some developers, wanted to buy it and develop it, and they went through machinations, and then that fell through.
Correct.
Last year, right?
And we asked the question, why would they try to push it when this came to vote? And they made it seem like there was a deadline with Simon and our financial advisor on behalf of the city. The independent financial advisor is the one that Dan Lowe in Legacy Developments had an issue with. He's the CEO. He also had to do with Legacy and in Kansas City and Legends. So that developer did not like the independent financial advisor.
Right.
We asked the question, why? Why would you not like him? Based on previous developments they had worked on together. Turns out it's a really good thing the city was diligent and had this financial advisor, because the developer on the outlet mall, Horizon and Legacy, particularly Dan Lowe, who's the CEO, he said that the proposal that was put together by the financial advisor in the city was way too favorable for the city and that they were going to walk away. Well, the mayor and the city of Osage Beach called their bluff and they said, okay, you can walk away. The developer never came back with a redesigned development plan or anything, or tried to figure out a happy medium. They just walked away. And so what we thought could be happening with the outlet mall proved to be true. They were trying to push it through. Luckily, our city had an independent financial advisor that says, whoa, this does not protect the interest of the taxpayers for years to come.
Right.
This is way more vague without plans in here. And so it didn't happen. And so whereas they tried to say Simon's going to give up operations and it's not going to sell, that is not true. Actually, as a matter of fact, Mayor Harmison says he talks to Simon almost every single week. Although there is no contract in place right now, there are 3 interested parties, and it is most likely going to include some changes from the initial plans for the mall. But Mayor Michael Harmison said, listen, the mall is going to happen. I am confident. And even if it's not with Horizon and Legacy, because that ship has probably sailed, he goes, this project is going to be redeveloped and is going to happen. And so good news. And how about Mayor Michael Harmison and his diligence and our Board of Aldermen and our TIF Commission, because our TIF Commission really voted with their hearts, not their head in that situation. You remember that meeting where Greg Hasty got up and said, if you want this to happen, vote yes now. And it's like, well, that's not the way local government works. And the TIF Commission, they were acting with their heart, and that was by the pressure put on by the developer. Luckily, our city was diligent. We didn't get into bed. We didn't approve the redevelopment plan or their TIF proposal, and so the mall is still there. We're going to keep you posted as things develop. A couple other developments, Chris, the affordable housing complex off Nichols. Where does that one sit? Well, a lot of people said it's the affordable or low income housing. Well, that's not really true. You've got higher scale living, and then you've got lower. This is what the developer is calling the missing middle. They had one minor setback. They were going to close on the property on December 12th, but there was an issue with an easement, just a minor hurdle, and I think they're good on that. And so right now they're just waiting for them to close on the property. The next step would be a groundbreaking ceremony, which should be coming in the coming weeks. And if the mayor had to give an educated guess, he said that after that groundbreaking, the developer, Jeff Tegehoff, he would then offer a timetable or a timeline of when this project would be complete. And so the good thing about this, it's self-financed. They're not using city tax money, bonds, TIFs, none of that. Of course, there are tax breaks as far as materials and tax abatement with the property tax. We saw some fight back from our local school board president, Gail Griswold, but I think that's solved, because if you look at it, they're projecting on a 5-year span with that about 11 to 15 additional kids added to that particular school district. And that's over the next 3 to 5 years. So I would believe over the next 3 to 5 years within that district where there's enough people moving to the area that don't have kids, that'll be paying property tax, that'll be going to the school, that would kind of offset that. I thought some of the way that the school board had fought that and questioned that seemed interesting, and I don't think that's the way you look at it. However, $9,000, Chris, per student to get them through on average could create an issue, but it looks like the affordable or missing middle housing complex is closer to coming to fruition than anyone realized. And then the last one, the Lynn Creek development.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
That was huge, right? What's happened with that?
Well, all of a sudden, developer Blake Hoditz and property owner kind of went hush-hush on it. I can't get an answer from anybody. What I do know from my sources is that they were negotiation, and the owner of the land seemed to kind of be playing hardball. Even though the property was under contract with Hoditz, the developer, the owner put it back on the market, and of course, I don't think that sat well with developer Hoditz. I've reached out to Blake Hoditz numerous times on Facebook Messenger, and I haven't heard back since his initial reply in October. And what he said in October was, there are many moving parts and my team and I are staying busy. I can't give you anything now, but I look forward to sharing more updates with you in the future. Since that time, I've reached out to him on December 28th to confirm some of the rumors, no reply, and I reached back out Monday, January 9th, again with no reply. Now keep in mind, this is on Facebook Messenger, and Hoditz did tell me in his initial reply in October, he doesn't check Facebook often, and so he may not have seen these yet, but I don't have an update on that. I just know that they have gotten hush-hush on it. Sounds to me like the landowner tried to play hardball, and hopefully that doesn't put a anchor in that, because that was a huge potential development.
That was a multi-phase plan there, and I don't know if it's true or not. I've heard that's fallen apart, that's not going to happen now, at least not in the way we had heard that it was going to. So that would be unfortunate if that is the case.
Well, I would have to believe, again, being a Facebook message, but there's like 4 messages without a reply.
Yeah.
You know, if something did fall apart, I'm not sure I would want to be telling people or want that information out there. So we'll keep you updated. I'm going to continue to be persistent in my seek for answers and see what's going on with that Lynn Creek
I am so impressed with all the information you got here. That is fantastic.
You know what I didn't do is I reached out and tried to get an update on the casino project. I wasn't able to find out many updates, and so stay tuned. A cup of coffee over the next coming weeks. We'll have an update on our casino project for you. All right, so talk about all the local developments and headlines. It's only fitting that this week Central Ozarks Medical Center hometown hero is the 1st District Commissioner of Camden County, James Gohagan. And Chris, he was nominated by you.
Yep.
He was born and raised in Camden County, actually has lineage back to Lynn Creek back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Camdenton High School before going to Camdenton Bible Baptist School, also spent time managing different stores in the outlet mall. But what he's most known for is he's a family man. Him and his wife, Andrea, have 3 beautiful kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. And you guys know this guy's selflessness and pursuit of truth and justice. If you ask him, he'd tell you his greatest accomplishment is having raised and to be raising his children to know and love God. He wants to show them there is no shame in seeking truth, justice, and living for the Lord and living for your community and everyone around you. He's been a big activist. He was involved in the TCE contamination being exposed at the old Modine location. He was the one that led the asbestos exposure, problems going on at the Camden County government buildings. He voted to increase deputy wages once he was elected commissioner, led Camden County to be the first Second Amendment sanctuary county in the state, saying, listen, if the federal government comes after you or anyone comes after you and tries to say your Second Amendment rights aren't protected, we do not adhere to that as a county. We are we're exempt to that, which was the first county in Missouri, and you saw other counties follow their lead, which was really cool to see that start with Commissioner Gohagan. He raised the road and bridge budget by a much needed 50%, which took the previous commission forever, never got it done. He had that done like that. And he also held former presiding commissioner Hasty accountable in his time as 1st District Commissioner while Hasty was still the presiding commissioner. A couple cool things though, Chris. A couple interesting facts about Commissioner Gohagan. He's got an arrowhead collection like you wouldn't believe. He's been hunting since his early teens, and one of the first dates with his wife, Andrea, he took her hunting for arrowheads.
Really? How cool is that, man?
You think that's cool. Even cooler than that, because you're a bird guy.
Yeah.
Mr. Gohagan is known as a bird whisperer.
Really?
He's got a long history of saving birds in his neighborhood. He's caught numerous birds, Chris, with his hands and saved them, whether they've been stunned, harassed, attacked by cats, sick birds who need help. His neighbors bring birds to him or call James and say, hey, we've got a blue jay or we've got an owl that has been hurt or is sick. and James comes over and takes care of that bird. Yeah. According to his wife, Andrea, who helped us put this story together, she said James didn't choose the bird life chose James. He also loves to read, and a couple of quotes I had to share real quick. Stacy Shore says that James always sees the little guy. People who feel they have never had a voice before will always have a listening ear with James. He's a simple man who makes no apologies for prioritizing his family, loving his chickens, arrowhead hunting, and in this place where generations of his family have called home. Ike Skelton, our presiding commissioner, said he is a true asset to Camden County. His passion as attentiveness to his county is unmatched. He is a true asset to Camden County, and that is our presiding commissioner, Ike Skelton. Yep. Wanted to thank his wife, Andrea, for helping us put this together, as well as Stacy Shore and presiding commissioner, Ike Skelton. With good reason, we're happy to name Commissioner James Gohagan this week's Central Ozarks Medical Center's hometown hero. And tell you what, he is the real deal. We have had so many people get involved in local government the last few years, and setting a tone as we move forward to a new day in Lake of the Ozarks politics.
In my view, a guy like James Gohagan is a hero. You know, I mean, he got into politics and swam upstream on his own. Every day it was a fight, a challenge, and he got up and did that fight and that challenge every day. And I mean, that's tough because so many of us won't do that. It's like, no, I'm not going to put myself through that, and he did. So love that guy. He's great.
And you could really put him in the entire grouping. We already honored Nathan Rennie, but you got Stacy Shore, Gail Griswold, Josh Butterfield. You've got Ike Skelton. You've got Judge Rochelle Christensen, who's now our prosecutor. I mean, the list goes on and on about people that are here for the right reason and want to see this change, and we're seeing it. So, all right, as we move forward, real quick, we got some sports. Chiefs, they wrap up. They get the 1 seed, 31-13 winner over the Raiders.
Lucky again this year to get that number 1 seed.
But it is what it is. I mean, because there's no saying that had the Bills and Bengals game went to fruition, you would pick the Bengals. The Bengals were up 7-3. Were well on their way to probably winning that game.
No doubt the Bengals would have won that game.
And so I don't think the Chiefs got lucky, because the Bengals win that game. It's going to be KC as the 1 seed, right?
Yeah, probably.
And so I think that the chips probably fell exactly where they should. KC deserves the 1 seed. They got the 1 seed, and that leads me to our playoff picks. Our regular season pick 'em. Andrew took first place, but you had last couple weeks.
That's right.
You made up major ground. 3 weeks ago, you were 9 points out of first place.
I know.
After the regular season concludes, you're only 2 points back. I'm only 6 points back. Kevin's only 8 points back. And so 1 through 4 with the playoffs, because there's weighted points, could go either way. So real quick, I got to go over our playoff picks. Chargers at the Jaguars.
Okay. I haven't even looked at these yet.
Okay.
So I don't know who
so
I'm going
we won't do these on the set, but I want to tell you is, do you remember on July 20th, you and I were co-hosting What's Burning, and we did our preseason NFL pick'ems.
Yeah.
So did you go back and did you see what happened in that?
I remember you picked the Jaguars to win that division. I picked Tennessee, and you were right.
I'm going to tell you, you were 5 of 8 on division winners.
Really?
Will was a perfect 8 for 8 in division winners.
That's pretty incredible.
As of July 20th. Could not believe that. Andrew and I were kind of flabbergasted at that. So as we keep the NFL trend real quick, I wanted to ask, at this point in time, who would be your NFL MVP?
I would have to go with Josh Allen, probably. I think he means so much more to the success of the Bills than anybody. Maybe if there's a possibility, Cincinnati's quarterback, what's his name?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, because he is incredible too. But it would be one of those two.
So if you take Patrick Mahomes off the Chiefs, you think that they're successful? 5,200 yards. Allen has more picks, more fumbles than I'm a Bills guy. I'm a Josh Allen guy. Look behind me. But listen, Patrick Mahomes is undoubtedly your 2023 MVP, and you were unfairly hard on him because of the bar he has set.
I think, that's
true. It's not
true.
even close. Patrick Mahomes has run away with the MVP this race further than he ever has in his career.
He's dropped off this year.
You say that, and he's got the highest QBR, the highest quarterback rating. He led the NFL in passing yards this year. You don't give him enough credit. So before we wrap up, I wanted to give a big shout out to Jill and Daryl Cunningham here at Slumberland at the Lake. They continue to make this show possible. Thank you guys for viewing, and enjoy some playoff football this week. Mizzou, they're rolling. They split over the weekend. Should be fun to watch. On behalf of Slumberland at the Lake, until next week, for Uncle Chris, I'm Wild Will. We'll see you then.